It's one of those
Mm.
slow where you don't realize it's happening to you until all of a sudden you're locked into a smart city and can't get out.
Then I think this is so deliberate. When we realize this is all deliberate by design, and like the environmental agenda, look at what they're doing to stop people growing their own food. I mean, I was out today, it's a beautiful day today, and then I saw the geoengineering planes come out. It's all part of it because what they're spraying from there is affecting our senses, affecting our brain function. Put aluminium into people's brains, that
Yeah.
you're completely disconnected. We know it's one of the main causes of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, let alone disconnecting you from being able to make good decisions. Cat senses and animal senses, they rely on sound, they rely on smell, they rely on vibration, and all of those things they can hear coming. But with the new electric cars, that completely scrambles what they're used to of early warning signals. It's a bit like, an antelope in the wild that's used to being hunted by a lion or a cheetah suddenly have a robotic lion or cheetah come and eat them. But there's statistics that clearly show a minimum of a 40% increase in road traffic accidents involving humans with electric vehicles. And a lot of people think it's way, way higher than that because, again, the
Yeah.
humans can't detect them. And what we're doing here is everything about so much about modern living that we're told as progress is just confusing our basic biology, our basic senses, and it's really causing absolute chaos.
I think people's anxiety is through the roof because they're constantly being bombarded. When I was a kid, we had the morning news and the evening news.
Mm.
Now we have 24/7 news network.
Idris, are you having a good dream? Are you being really helpful and helping me with my work? Are you the most handsome boy ever? And have you got the best fangs? Right, a big welcome back to our coffee chats today with my lovely friend Brice from Esoteric Atlanta. And we've got quite a lot of new listeners today. So these coffee chats, we discuss all sorts of different topics that come up each week. They could be something really serious, they could be something more humorous. But today, it's a really serious topic because for anyone that follows me on social media, I've had my family have had a terrible week because one of our beloved cats, Idris, got run over and killed at the weekend by an electric car. And I've written a blog and a Substack on it because people really need to learn the lessons from things like this. These electric cars are lethal in so many different ways. We're gonna be talking about that today. But we're also going to be talking about how it links into some other areas about the deliberately dumbing people down from their senses and the impact that has on ourselves, our own intuition, and all the people and everything around us, but also just about how much distraction there is in the world today. And is that a bit like V for Vendetta of walking us all into our own cages, of keeping us so distracted that we don't actually get out and live our lives? So, Brice, thank you so much for discussing this with me today. Very serious subjects.
I'm so sorry, but rest in peace, Idris, and we'll give his life purpose to bring awareness to this. I think it's a really important topic, and it's one of those, the whole frog in a pot thing. It's one of those
Mm.
slow where you don't realize it's happening to you until all of a sudden you're locked into a smart city and can't get out.
Yeah, and so we're going to link into quite a lot of things that I think are going to be so helpful for all of us to take a pause and take a good look at with all the horrendous things going on in the world. And before, I just want to address a few concerns for people that jump in and said he should have been an indoor cat, then this wouldn't have happened, or you can't blame the car, it's the driver. I have written a full blog on this, but just to put it in perspective, I live in the middle of the countryside. Idris has been with us for since 2020, so 6 years now. And we knew him so well, and he knew us so well. And he'd come and walks with us with the dogs and the horses. We've got country lane outside, and he was so super aware of normal traffic. And cat senses and animal senses, they rely on sound, they rely on smell, they rely on vibration, and all of those things they can hear coming. But with the new electric cars, that completely scrambles what they're used to of early warning signals. It's a bit like, an antelope in the wild that's used to being hunted by a lion or a cheetah suddenly have a robotic lion or cheetah come and eat them. It's something new that's been introduced by humans that their senses are not evolved to. And Idris would never be an indoor cat. He was a wanderer. He owned the whole neighborhood. Every single one of my neighbors is devastated because you could not love Idris. Even non-cat lovers didn't, loved Idris. So I just wanted to put that one to bed straight away. Now, Brice, should we start with the electric vehicles?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of, you talk about him like people getting mad because you didn't have him as an indoor cat. And we talked about this. What about your children?
Yeah,
What about your children who play outside?
yeah,
Because little children, even though we have different minds than animals, they still rely on their senses too. And you can teach your child, as many parents don't, look both ways before you cross the road. Don't just run after a ball. But if they look both ways and there's a curve and they don't hear a car coming, are you going to lock your child inside for the rest of his life and not let him or her go outside and play? So that's a really insensitive
yeah,
and frankly cruel comment to make to somebody who just lost their cat. So
yeah.
I would don't be cruel.
I do, and I
That's
did have
cruel.
quite a few. I had some really amazing comments, and the reason I wrote a blog about that, thank you for raising that, is because I want to raise awareness of this issue. And the blog on my Substack goes really deep into these issues. But with electric cars, the accidents, Brice, the statistics, no one, of course, has measured animals because they're so bottom of people's awareness, not our
Right.
listeners, but the awful global controllers have got no respect for them at all. But there's statistics that clearly show a minimum of a 40% increase in road traffic accidents involving humans with electric vehicles. And a lot of people think it's way, way higher than that because, again, the
Yeah.
humans can't detect them. And what we're doing here is everything about so much about modern living that we're told as progress is just confusing our basic biology, our basic senses, and it's really causing absolute chaos. So, what you made with the electric cars, I mean, we've got that issue, but we've also got the mining and the awful danger of the batteries, and we've also got the climate scam that are being sold to, and we've also, like you were saying, tell us about your car and my car. We've deliberately chosen to have very old cars that cannot be remotely controlled by people.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And it's so funny because we're laughing about like as we call a stick shift, you guys call
Yeah,
manuals. When I was a kid, not that long ago, in the learning how to drive in the 90s, we were required, we get our learner's permit at 15 in the state of Georgia, every state's different. We were required to learn how to drive a manual, a
yeah.
stick shift, and an automatic. And nowadays, kids can't even do that. I was telling you, Catherine, when my car's in the shop right now and I was driving my mom's fancy new car, doesn't even stick a key in the ignition. You just
Mm.
press a button. And it freaked me out so much. And maybe, I was kind of laughing at myself. I was like, maybe I am paranoid. Maybe I've read too many of Sergei Monast's documents, but this is creepy. Like this is not, you know, a little bit of labor goes a long way. And I, I'm thinking about like with these electric cars as you're saying that, because I live in the middle, right smack dab in the middle of a city, a huge city here in the United States. So I'm constantly hearing things. Like I'm
Yeah.
constantly hearing honks and traffic, and you get used to it. Like like for me sometimes when we go up to the mountains and it's so quiet, it kind of
Mm.
creeps me out a little bit because I'm used to hearing that noise. So I want to say I understand how the powers that be can use propaganda, can like manipulate people into getting these quiet cars because it is noisy, but that noise is as it's necessary. Like it's part of your survival instincts. And like for me, I'm so used to being in a city. It's probably like people who live in London are probably the same way.
Yeah.
I'm used to having a little bit of light in my room when I sleep. I'm used to hearing a little bit of noise. If you read the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, where the journalist comes down from New York City to record this trial, he plays it's back long in the late 1900s. So he plays a tape recording of traffic just so he can sleep at night because it's so quiet in Savannah he can't sleep. And I think that's important because I'm not somebody who truly believes like in evolution from monkeys, but I do believe in survival of the fittest.
Yeah,
That we do adapt to our environments. And if you take and our senses in the beautiful intelligence of how nature works, every species, our senses are going to develop around where we are in nature. So my senses have developed around a city.
mm,
Idris' senses had developed around being out in the countryside, which I don't know anybody in UK, in the United States, Canada, wherever, who keeps their animals locked up in the country. Like that's the
exactly.
place where your animals get to run free because literally in the country, you're probably more worried about predators than human so
Completely. And also, that's why a lot of people live in the countryside to give the best lives. That's why we moved in there to give the best lives for our animals. And
yep.
it's such an important point you said there about, I mean, I don't believe in evolution from monkeys. I was so upset, Brice, when I realized that was a lie because I adore monkeys and I've always wanted a tail. So when I realized that, I actually was really
Maybe
upset.
we devolved. Maybe we didn't evolve.
I
Maybe we
know, I
devolved.
know. I mean, for me, that would be a real compliment to be sort of said, I'm like a monkey. But it is a really important message, and I think we're so blindsided by you said the analogy of that everyone's heard of the analogy of the frog in the boiling pot where you turn the heat up slowly, and we've spoken before about convenience and having a car where you've got no handbrake, having a car where everything's digital. You try getting that fixed, but the electric cars, and I won't go into too much detail because I'll link my blog below where I go into all of this, but you are feeding straight into Agenda 2030, the
Oh,
new
absolutely.
agenda. Talk us through your thoughts on that, Brice.
We have some electric cars here in Atlanta, obviously, and we see them like plugged up and char like when you start your job at like 4 o'clock in the morning, like we do when we go into the shala, you pass them in their charging stations, and we always this is so mean of us. We only say it to ourselves. We're like these effing idiots.
Yeah,
Like, what's gonna happen? Here in Georgia, like I remember growing up, we had a lake house that we would go to, and my parents had like those red jugs of
yeah.
gasoline that they kept, yeah, for our jet skis, for our cars, that they always kept. Our lake house was up in the middle of the mountains. There wasn't, if you get stranded, you get stranded. So they
Mm.
always had that, and they would tell us like, don't get near it, in case, they keep it in very safe areas because in case a fire was lit or something. And I was thinking, like, if something happens and you gotta go, like, you gotta go, how you gonna go if your car isn't charged?
Yep.
And what happens when the battery dies and there's no charge station? Like, those of us who grew up in the late 1900s know to keep, if, can't, if you go up to the North Georgia mountain, that those garages are gonna they're gonna have gasoline. If you go knock on someone's door and you're stranded, they're gonna have gasoline to put in your car.
And also, it feeds into what's happening with the war at the moment, and ever deliberate ploy to actually cut off the fuel supplies and push people more into the electric vehicles. And I've seen loads of discussions online of people saying, "Thank goodness for my electric vehicle," and you're just like, I understand why people would fall for that. I do understand it because, a superficial level, but you are being completely controlled. I think most people realize now that a Tesla can be remotely controlled. And as I don't know if you have in America, Brice, but in the UK and big cities with our supermarket trolleys, with big, superstores and things, they have like an electric thing around the outside, so you can't push the trolley outside. It's like you
No,
can't
we don't.
go.
We don't have that. Well, maybe in some cities they
Yeah.
have that. We don't have that here in Atlanta
But
yet.
that's
They might be
exactly
in New
what they're going
York.
to do with the electric cars is you basically cannot go outside a pre-controlled electric area and they can stop it and you can't override it. Whilst in a petrol or a diesel car, you can. Now, yes, you've
Yeah.
still got to get fuel and they're blatantly going to try and stop us getting fuel. But the point is, and why sort of link it back to Idris, is these are kill machines. Look at the EMF associated with electric cars. It's like you're sitting in the highest EMF coming from the batteries, but also because everything in the car is Bluetooth or wireless.
Yeah.
While literally frying your children, frying yourself, frying your animals, completely remote controlled. Plus, also, it's confusing all our senses, as are all these other things that, people walking around with headphones all the time. You can see here, I have wired headphones. Now, because I wear hearing aids, have to
Yeah.
have over the ear ones because I can't have ones that go in your ear. But how many people do you see wandering around where they are completely disconnected from their environment
Yeah.
deliberately because that's what we've been brainwashed into doing?
When I was back in high school, so late 90s, early 2000s, when I was a big time long distance runner, I would run without we had like the Walkman, like the
Yeah,
Discman. That was it. We didn't have like, podcasts or anything like that. We had books on tape. But because you can't really run carrying your I would just run with nothing.
yeah,
Like I would just, and I did that every single day. And a lot of people, that's just what they did. And you got to like, whether you're aware of it or not, you're constantly aware of your surroundings when you're that way. But yeah, even like if I put and I only wear my headphones when I'm like cleaning the
yeah,
toilet or something. But if I do go, if I'm in like the sorry, I have to spell this word, guys, because my little boy's in the room, the PARK. A lot of times I will wear mine because people are so weird now that I don't want to make I really don't want to make eye contact. But and that's another thing too. It's like, I kind of made that thing about the note about the smart city. We're seeing smart cities pop up here in Atlanta, and I'm sure they're in
wow.
London. I'm sure they're in,
Mm,
and there's a few down the street, and they advertise it. And I was thinking, if I was in my early 20s, I would love that. Like you have your food and your
yeah,
job and your gym and your nightclub, and you're all there. But as a 43-year-old, and I'm like, but are they going to let you out?
yeah.
Like if you go in, can you come out again? Like that's my concern with these smart cities. It's even living in Atlanta. They burned Atlanta down before. What's
Mm.
going to stop them from burning it down again? And so it's so funny you talked about Tesla because all the Wemos we have here, the self-driving cars here in Atlanta, at least they're all Teslas.
Well, at least, I mean, that's horrendous, I mean, I don't think there's anything good about Tesla. And round here, we've got loads of Tesla cars, although we haven't, as far as I know, someone might correct me in the UK, I am a country bumpkin, but we don't, as far as I know, we don't have the self-driving cars here in the UK yet, but I'm sure I could be, um,
I
correct.
will, Catherine, we're going out a little bit later today. I will, if I see one, I'll have my phone ready and I will
You have
film
it
it for
ready and
you.
show me because it will freak me out. But what really made me think about so electric cars, I go into it way more on my blog. I'm going to link it below. Please look because people don't understand. And look, if you're watching this and you've got an electric car, it's like all of us. We've all been fooled by things, but at least know so you can protect yourself and most importantly, the wildlife and the animals and the children and everything as well. But when a tragedy happens in your life, Bryce, I think it really, I mean, very human nature makes you really sit back and reflect and think what is going on. And one of the things that it really made me think, I mean, have you seen the film V for Vendetta?
A long time
A
ago. It's
long
been a
while ago.
very long time ago. Yeah.
So the main principle of the V for Vendetta is how much we all lock ourselves in our own prisons or
Yeah.
go in there voluntarily. And look what happened during the COVID lockdowns, how easily so many people complied because they were so brainwashed. And I'll say it again, watch Planet Mind Control by Jason Christoph. Get on my email list if you want the link. It's free to watch because we don't realize how we are being subliminally mind controlled at every level through all the senses that we're not necessarily conscious of through our subconscious mind. And I think what it's really made me think about, Brice, and I'd love your opinion, is how much all these distractions, and distractions are true, these things are happening often, like a false flag, real people die in false flags, but it's not done for the reasons we think it is. These distractions, we've spoken about it before with the truth of markets, in no other bit of the community have I seen people so focused on listening and consuming content and not actually getting out there and doing and living their lives and building
Yeah.
systems and communities that are going to help them survive what they're learning about with all this content they're consuming.
It becomes entertainment. It's the
Yeah,
same entertainment, which is why we know that the truther community is just as controlled by the establishment as the normie community is. We have more proof than that, but just on a basic common sense level. And it's so funny. I told you that I pulled up. So when I was growing up in the Western world, right, we're taught we have five senses, right?
yeah,
And we laugh the sixth sense is like your intuition. Well, actually, that's the 11th sense
mm,
is your intuition. Because believe it or not, you guys, and this to me, and I hope I'm saying this properly, this to me shows me how they've been dumbing us down
yeah,
for centuries. Because I learned the 10 senses in India through Hinduism. And I was telling you, I looked them up to pull them up, and I realized this isn't just a Hindu thing because they had it from all the cultures. All the cultures had 10 senses, with the 11th sense being your like spidey sense,
yeah.
right? And now we're all whittled down to five senses, right? Well, if so should we just talk about
Please
these for a
go
second?
through them. Please go through them because this it just ties in so beautifully to what we've discussed before with Sergio Monast's work and the Richard Day tapes about dumbing down society. Because look how much our education systems have been completely dumbed down. It's ridiculous, and this is the perfect example of that.
So we have the five. We all know the five: the nose, the tongue, the eyes, the skin, the ears. So touch, sight. We all know those. Those are the ones we still talk about. So here are the five. And remember, guys, the 11th sense. So again, for those who want to go off in the comment section, for for our ancestors, the 11th sense was our intuition,
Yeah,
the inner sense, they call it. So if that doesn't come up in these next five, that's why. So the sixth sense was the organ of vocal expression. So speech. Speech was the sixth sense. Hands, the organ of grasping and holding. So knowing how, which, Catherine, to me, like we might think, oh, that's so simple. I'm holding my phone, I'm doing this. But holding, that goes deeper into touch as well, and feeling and Reiki and being able to understand the pressure points of the hand, right? I'm sure our ancestors, when they would plant crops, pull crops, when we go to the grocery store today, like we thump melons just to see if they're ripe. So you smell it and you thump it with your hand.
yeah,
Okay, so that's another one. Now, this one is what made me think of Idris. So feet, they call it the organ of locomotion.
yeah.
So being able to feel through your feet, vibrations, to be able to feel our ancestors. I mean, think about that, like back in the long ass time ago when we were living in more tribal communities and another warring tribe was going to come attack us, they would feel in their feet the stampede.
Oh,
Even humans.
completely. And animals use this. That's such an important one. We're going to stop on that one because it's such an important one and it's hugely relevant to poor Idris. And also bearing in mind that animals are barefoot. That's
Yep,
why I've got my barefoot shoes on. I won't show you them at the moment. But
I have.
in
I've got mine too. I
yeah,
got those shoes on.
in huge areas of the world, the
Mhm.
norm is still to be barefoot because
India, India.
again,
Yeah.
we talk about grounding now and everything like that, but the whole point is we shouldn't be wearing shoes anyway. And if we were living out in nature as we're designed to, this would be one of our main communications, as you say, the vibration and the energy that you pick up through the feet. And for animals, that is huge.
Well, and look at how our feet have been. We have all these we have tons of nerve receptors
Yeah,
at the bottoms of our feet as well. That's why reflexology is. But look at us, and listen, I'm guilty. I have stiletto shoes in my closet. Like they're pretty, right?
mm,
But look at how women's feet, and men too, who have been confined to these shoes, our toes are starting to kind of be pulled in,
yeah.
and that's messing with the bone structure. That's messing with so many feet, so many things with the feet. We're supposed to have some calluses on our feet. That's why they build calluses, right? And to be able to move our toes and to move. And I'm guilty of painting my nails from time to time too. But God only knows what's in that nail polish that
Yeah,
we're putting
completely.
And so that's a really important one was I love that they call it the organ of locomotion,
Yeah.
of movement. So at the ninth was the organ of excretion. So
Yeah.
being in touch with your colon, knowing when you had to go to the bathroom, and I'll be careful
And
how.
well, and also because the excretion is literally, I mean, for most animals, feces and urine is one of their main communication things. They can
Yep.
pick up disease, stress, cancer. It's like a big warning beacon to everything. So that again is huge.
Listen, I see this with parents of humans as well, where they get obsessed with their child's poop.
Yeah,
My sister went through that with her kids changing their diaper, looking.
yeah,
But Ravi, to this day, every time he takes a poop, I look at it to make sure. Before I have to pick it up too, because I'm in a city. But to make
yeah.
sure that there's his. We Todd and I communicate. What was Ravi's poop like today? Like because that gives us a huge indication of his overall health.
And
And
the
what's in.
excretion, bear in mind, sorry to interrupt,
Oh,
but
you're right. You're
it
fine.
really links into obviously the sense of smell, but every car excretes
Mhm.
fumes as well. So what they're not just picking up the smell of it, they're also picking up the association about what's danger and what's not. And again,
Yeah.
that's what makes electric cars so dangerous to wildlife.
And I know that's why I know you're right because Ravi's never eaten another dog's poop. I've
Yeah,
never seen him do that, but he will smell it if he comes
yeah,
across it. He'll smell it, and it's someone says that's him checking his social media, like that's him checking
completely.
like the news to see what's going on. And the last one, I have to be careful of how I say this because we are on YouTube, but it's the organ of procreation, we'll
Mm,
say. So the 10th sense would be the need to procreate, which we see, the most fascinating when I started rescuing dogs in India, the vet that we work with in India to help us get the dogs to the United States, and to Canada, that's the two countries that will take these dogs. He's fascinating to talk to because
mm,
he works, you hear in America, and probably the same with a lot of our listeners in all Western worlds. We're used to like dogs who've been bred, like
yeah.
buying a dog, when you're working though with and like your rescues, you're working with street dogs.
Hmm.
And that is a totally because you've got like a wild, almost like a wild animal on your
Yeah.
hands. And so talking to this vet in India, and we were so concerned, first of all, when we were the last batch of mom and her puppies we brought over. We were really concerned, A, about the mother leaving her puppies, and the vet was like, no, she won't do that if a little girl will leave and have her own. Anyway, and we got to conversation of breeding. And for like, that's why these street dogs, in a lot of ways, are very healthy because they are bred naturally through
Yeah.
natural selection. They're not forced. They only breed once a year. And get this, Catherine, this is what's so, and I laugh because I'm like, some humans don't know this, but the vet in India would tell us that in the wild, like Ravi, let's say Ravi was in the wild, he knows who his sisters are,
Yeah.
and he also knows who his first cousins are.
Mm.
They will not go near to procreate with a sister or their mom or a first cousin. And I was like, there's some people in my neck of the woods, some humans haven't figured that out. But I thought that sense of for me, I mean, no offense to my male cousins, but
Mm.
we have that. It's not just creating, it's that health of knowing who to procreate with and who not to procreate with. Am I
Yeah.
making sense when I say that? Like, there's a reason why we're not attracted to our siblings. There's a reason why we're not attracted to our first cousins. I have a student who's a geneticist, and she's fascinating to talk to. And she said one day that genetically speaking, in a lot of cases, first cousins do read as siblings.
Yeah.
That's why it's so dangerous for first cousins, which I stupidly did my DNA 23andMe years ago before I was on YouTube, and one of my cousins we have a really strong DNA match. Like it asked me, is this your cousin or a half sibling? And I had to clarify it was my cousin.
Yeah.
That's how strong our DNA was matching. And so, but then of course I looked at my male cousins and I
Yeah.
don't want to know about like that's gross. So we have that natural with our brothers, to not do that, and animals do as well. So that's, then we look at like the establishment and we know part of Catherine and I have covered the Sabbatean, part of their religion is to ignore that natural sense of not
Yeah.
wanting to do the hokey pokey with a brother or a sister, and they intentionally do that. So we're seeing the establishment erode these
Mm.
natural inclinations that we have, and then they're also taking things away from us. They can't force us to at this point to procreate with siblings, but they can do stuff like put electric cars in and dumb us down.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they can also do things like Jeffrey Epstein with making sure that his, shall I say, substances of procreation were put in as many people as possible by different things. And it's absolutely foul. But equally, the way modern life, the way everything's perfumed, the way everything's synthetic, that completely messes up. I mean, there's loads of studies that have been done that show that if you meet someone where both of you are wearing perfume and aftershave, for example, you will choose the wrong mate because you're not picking
Really?
up the natural pheromones and things, and you'll make really bad decision. And of course, they know this, and you can't go into a shop or anything where there's synthetic fragrances absolutely everywhere and being pushed.
That explains my early 20s. No,
Yeah, it does
I was just
explain
gonna
the
blame
early
it on
20s
that.
a lot. Yeah.
Well, I know
You
even
make
I've
really bad decisions based on smells. So if I'm working therapeutically with an animal, if I'm treating an animal, it doesn't matter which of my therapies I'm using, I never ever
you
wear any
smell.
perfumes or anything perfume because they've got to be able to pick up my scent and my intention and my vibration.
That is so warn your kids about this. You know,
Yeah,
they also say, Catherine, this kind of goes into it as well. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I've read this a lot. Maybe you'll know more about this. That if you have a girl, let's say you have a girl in her 20s, and when you are ovulating, if you put a girl in the bar, let's say in a bar, a pub in her 20s, when she's ovulating, she's gonna subconsciously pick men that look way more responsible and
yeah,
way more because she's ovulating, so she's looking for a subconsciously, this is all subconscious, right? Don't freak out, men. This is subconscious. She's attracted more to a man that gives off I don't know, pheromones
yeah,
that are gonna equate to being a good provider and a good father. Only when she's ovulating, though,
yeah.
right? That it changes. A girl's taste in men will change. And so, but this is interesting because even studying that shows how animalistic we really still are
Yeah,
in our natural state. Is that for a woman to scour a room and look for a provider and a protector and a father when she's actually ovulating shows how that's that animalistic that we see with the dogs in the wild who
exactly.
won't go near their cousins for fear of having a weak inbred, you
Mm.
know, King Charles III looking. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to do a dig at the royal family because
Oh,
they.
another good. Look, dig away. So the next thing I wanted to link it onto, which links really well to all of that, is about this obsession. And again, when I'm saying this, I'm not saying it's all wrong. Poor Lola's still got her cone on. Stop her scratching with the things. Poor Lola. Um, this obsession with so many people here. I bet virtually everyone watching this would know far more about what's happening in the other side of the world or what we're being told is happening in the other side of the world than necessarily what they do with their own communities. And again, like in the countryside, you have to know your neighbours, really. There's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many times when we've had to rely on each other, from everything from a lost dog to trees bringing down the power lines to water supplies off. You know, when the smaller the community, the more you rely on each other. But in this city, most people don't even know their neighbours.
I don't know half of my neighbors. I know their dogs,
Yeah,
and it is it's so interesting because in the South, we have a code of there's like a Southern etiquette. And when I was growing up, even in the city, you saw the yes ma'ams, the no sirs. People were very polite,
mm,
and that Southern hospitality, as they say. But I've been getting increasingly more and more frustrated just going to the grocery store because people are, and I don't know if it's these things, if they're messing with our senses, and that's why people are like not totally with it when it comes to that just common courtesy, and
mm,
it gets frustrating. But you're right, up and so where I was, it's so funny because I was just at a Bigfoot conference this past weekend. Oh my God, Catherine, you'd have to go one day. We'll have to get you here for. I always enjoy it. First of all, talking about senses, the people that come to these events, I think you go to these events thinking they're going to be kind of hokey, but you
mm.
get there and all the speakers, all the people that are there, they've experienced something that they cannot explain. And
Yeah,
that's what they're looking for answers. But a lot of times it is that I felt something, I smelt something. Todd had an experience in Alaska where he was like rushed out of an area by a Native American because there was a horrible smell. And looking back, That's a sign of a Bigfoot. You know, so there's all these people are literally having the true authentic experience, and they've been told they're crazy their whole life, and so they go to these events, but they're always up in the mountains. And that whole community up there, the Chamber of Commerce was there because everybody knows each other up there. And it is, you have to rely on each other for survival. If you're in the country and your power goes out or a tree falls and you can't get out of your house, who's going to show up to help you get that tree down? Your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know, and so
So
there's
you
the
know the
community.
ones who've got a chainsaw. It's
Yeah,
such an important point, and this is why I've got a friend who was talking about his daughter who's in her early 20s, and she's got that they're not calling it 15-minute cities, but exactly the same. So they're encouraging these young people to have the office buildings where there's a gym, where there's cafes, where there's restaurants, where there's a cinema. And so they're all in effectively a 15-minute city. And of course, they think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And you would do probably if that stage of your life, quite some people would. But this is deliberate to take us away from connection. And there is a country code, and people who've grown up in the countryside, they don't drive like idiots around the country lanes. They respect and they know there's probably going to be some wildlife around the corner. Was people that are so disconnected and haven't grown up and lived like that, they're just not able to cope or interact in a safe way. I mean, you see them with their dogs as well. They've just got no sort of common sense. And I'm not meaning to be mean. It's just, it's not their
it
fault.
is.
It's the
Yeah.
brainwashing of how they've been completely disconnected from the common sense. And I think this is so deliberate. When we realize this is all deliberate by design, and like the environmental agenda, look at what they're doing to stop people growing their own food. I mean, I was out today, it's a beautiful day today, and then I saw the geoengineering planes come out. It's all part of it, because what they're spraying from there is affecting our senses, affecting our brain function. Put aluminium into people's brains, that
Yeah.
you're completely disconnected. We know it's one of the main causes of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, let alone disconnecting you from being able to make good decisions.
I mean, I think as you're saying that, I'm laughing because like up in the North Georgia mountains, it's so swervy. You have to go super slow,
Yeah,
but there's always wild turkey,
yeah.
deer. So you'll see it and they'll cross. You have to slow and let them cross. And as you were saying that, I was like, you and I don't eat meat, but think about like ancient cultures when they didn't have freeze-dried food in the grocery store. They would have to sit in the woods, be totally quiet and wait for a turkey
Yeah.
or a deer. Like they had to rely on that listening and knowing how to set themselves up just right. I've never been hunting. Hopefully never will have to go hunting. But and I we were laughing with the turkey, and there was believe it or not, my father, who's a veterinarian, would also go hunting.
Mm.
Like we have like turkey season, deer season when they get over. There's so many of them. And we were laughing this weekend because I accidentally, when I was in high school, I was driving and a turkey like flew into my windshield.
Yeah.
It survived. I don't know where it went. A friend of mine was in the car and my dad had been trying, he's like I've been out there trying to hunt all these turkeys and my 15-year-old daughter just hit one of their car. But kind of like God has a sense of humor. My vegetarian child at that, like just hit one with her car. But yeah, right, because even like with the wildlife situation, I mean, we have Atlanta. One of the good things about Atlanta is we are considered the most green city in the nation.
Yeah.
We're so green. We have so much. We have pollen issues, so we do sometimes get some wild animals like in the city, like in
Mm.
Piedmont Park, especially. We get like a lot of snake issues. We have a lot of poisonous snakes down here. Well, that's the thing too, Catherine. Okay, growing up, I hate to sound old like
Yeah.
when I was a kid, but they didn't, my parents never like stopped us like the person saying
Yeah.
Idris should have been in. We have very poisonous state. We're very much
Yeah.
like Australia in that we have copperheads, rattlesnakes, all sorts
Mm.
of extremely poisonous snakes. So as children, we were taught rhymes, nursery
Yeah.
rhymes. Black on red, wait, black on yellow could kill a fellow, black on red, you better step. They're like different nursery
Yeah.
rhymes we learned. And of course, rattlesnakes, you can hear them, and copperheads, you see that they look like it. But so we had to learn as children how to play outside and also be aware of our
Yeah.
environment. That there are snakes. We have wasp nests, hornet's nest, all sorts of very poison that burrow in the ground. We have to watch where we step. And there were times as a kid you would step on it and you get
Yeah.
stung, like, and you learned. And so if people are being kept inside, even with these like smart cities, when we're being kept inside and we're not used to having to, that's survival of the fittest, right? We're screwed. Like we talk about the Coliseum, they'll just put us on a Coliseum and watch the tigers pull us limb to limb because we've lost all
Literally.
sense of, it's sport for them to see us to see us so disconnected. Even growing up on off the coast, where my mother, we would go to my mom's family. I know what to do if a jellyfish stings you.
Yeah.
I know what to do, like, because we were gonna get stung. Either you sit inside all day and pout, or you go out and play and you take the risk of getting stung.
Yeah.
That it just is what it is. And it's we know what to look for when it comes to wildlife in the sea. Like, don't get too far. What does it look like? And so, but are they pulling that so far back from us that now we just don't even understand? And that
Mm.
entitlement that Sergei Monas talked about, that were that they were going to start to like, and we have seen a rise in narcissism, that we're all just entitled. Like, how dare, people want to like sue the beach because they got stung by a jellyfish. And it's like, I don't know.
Oh, it's
There's
just
so,
ridiculous. We're meant to live in harmony with it. And,
yeah,
we just talked, you just said, turkey season and deer season, there's loads of them. And, population things is a different discussion. It does make me laugh when everyone says it's a disaster. The population breeding rates aren't
yeah.
as much. And you're just like, yeah, thank God, who wants to build another great big city and have everyone in there? Look, if the shit hits the fan anymore with the war, if you're in a city, you're completely stuffed. And we're all stuffed to some extent, but in a city, your food supply will be out within a couple of days, your water supply, you're not going to be able to go foraging for your own food. You're not going to be, and it's like most of us haven't got those skills anymore, again, deliberately. But even if you've got a bit of common sense and your instincts kick in, sorry, I've got hair up my nose, then you're not going to have them in your environment to be able to do that. So that's the problem, and it's all by design. And I think when you surrounded by nature and you see how things do get killed, how you survive, how you pick up on things, where so much of what we call progress now isn't progress. And coming back to the awareness side of things, Brice, what is your opinion on how distracted we all are with
Oh,
consuming information now?
we're so distracted. When I'm up in the mountains, I don't get internet. Like, we have to actually, that's why I have a hard time even getting phone calls sometimes on my cell phone. Most people
Mm,
have landlines still up there, but it's so nice. And I was saying to, I think it was Jess, our friend, the Cryptid Huntress, because she's around in
mm.
between our ages, and it's like, as a kid, we got to unplug. Like, we would come
Yeah,
home from school and we'd play outside. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have any of this stuff. And even though the internet is great, wonderful, that's why we have Zoom now, it's constant. I think people's anxiety is through the roof because they're constantly being bombarded. When I was a kid, we had the morning news and the evening news.
mm.
Now we have 24/7 news networks. Like, what?
And on the
And the,
news, do you remember? Sorry to interrupt, but I was talking about this with Gareth Icke actually. Do you remember when you grew up on the news? There would be news stories, but there would normally be a feel-good story at the end, like
yes.
fireman rescued a cat from
Mhm.
up a chimney or up a tree or something.
Girl Scouts
When
do
was the
this.
last
Yes.
time you heard a feel-good story to end the news to get people out of that fear vibration?
No, never. And it's so funny. There was a time, if we have any youngsters watching here in America, there was a time when they turned the cable. Like, if you stayed
Yeah,
up late enough, they would play the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star Spangled Banner. Then
yeah,
they would turn. They would actually. You didn't have to worry about turning the TV off. They turned it off for you.
yeah.
And so I think it's. I'm very, and I will say, for people who live in a city like myself, make sure that you have an escape route. Like,
Yeah.
we have my parents live in a small town, my sister lives in the suburbs. My boyfriend knows people up in North Georgia. We know where to go and how to
Yeah.
get out, and we can survive. Todd Roderick still will forage. We go, he'll eat things, from so I would suggest that to anybody who has a lives in a city. I would even go so far as to say, like, if you're in New York or London, places that have a subway or an underground, make sure you're not totally dependent on that too.
Absolutely.
And I know it's convenient. We have the MARTA system here. It doesn't go that far though, because it's too damn hot out here. But make sure that you have, even if you don't have a car, that you know someone who does, that you can get out. That would be my advice too, because I mean, the world, I know every generation says this, that things are so different from we were kids to now, but I feel like the leap that has happened from when I was born in 1983 to now 2026 is so drastic. It's so
Yeah.
drastic. And yeah, so I mean it's scary. There was a Gen Z kid, the video went viral where he was a vegan, but he was drinking strawberry milk because the milk came from the strawberries. And everybody's like,
Oh my
turn
God. Oh my God.
what's happening to our education? Like what? And he was dead serious too. Or they're doing this
Oh, that's where I would say, bless your heart.
I know
You
that's
know,
blessed. I think
don't
that's where
take
most
one of
people like,
your sayings, bless your
bless
heart.
your heart. Or somebody with the Gen Z, they're trying to do this challenge where they write their name without lifting up their pen, and people are like, that's cursive.
Yeah.
Like, that's cursive. That's
Yeah.
not. Or what's the video that someone said? What if we create a phone that's just in the house? And everyone's like,
Oh,
that's a landline.
yeah.
Have
Which
we
they're
really?
getting rid of most of them here. I mean, in terms of where we're at with the distractions and the global environment, it's so easy for people to consume more and more
Yeah.
and more information because, for example, let's take the war in Iran with Iran. It's not, you know, let's be truthful about it. With that going on, there will be implications for everyone if it keeps going. You know, we're already seeing Colombia, I think it is, and loads of other countries with power outages. And of course, this is all part of the plan is to ration people. They tried COVID to keep it in our houses because of this mystery virus that didn't
Yeah.
work if you were walking to the toilet in the restaurant. It only worked when, you know, you were in certain places and after 9 o'clock, etc. But in all seriousness, they're now going to try and lock people down, quite possibly with electrical outages, and you can't drive because there'll be fuel rationing and things like that. So, Brice, what's your thoughts on where do people get enough information to get prepared, but still remember that they're meant to be living their life?
Well, as you're saying, I was like, guys, especially if you lived in the late 1900s like we did, go and load up on gas,
Yeah,
like our parents did.
yeah,
Go and get they still sell them at the gas stations here, little red
yeah,
buckets. You put and go and load up. That's what we would probably do. I as I would say, absolutely know your environment. So even if you're misplaced, so even if you're not in a location in the world where you're from, like you're there for work or something, get to know the
yeah.
surrounding areas. So like if you live in London, but you've been, you're working in, or let's say you're from the England and you've been working in London for your job, that's understandable. That's, you have
Mm,
to work, but know the routes to get out. Know how
mm,
to, I would say no, get to know your neighbors, figure out who in your community shares your same, I don't want to say ideas, but knowledge,
mm.
and you guys can have that buddy system. I'm very, very fortunate because I'm in Georgia, and so Atlanta is kind of the only like liberal, like progressive. If you had told me 20 years ago I would be on the redneck side, I would told you were crazy, but I freaking God bless the rednecks and the mountain men here because I
Exactly.
will feel very safe up in North. I mean, they all have these things and they all, support each other and protect. They all know how to hunt, they all know how to build houses, they all know how to do all sorts of mountain men stuff that
Find water. Do you know how to
yeah,
dowse for water?
yes.
Do you know how to
Yeah.
purify your water? That's pretty essential.
Yeah,
Yeah,
build a fire. I
yeah.
actually asked Todd the other day. I was like, "Do you know how to build a fire
I
without?" He
do.
goes, "Yeah, he does too."
Yeah,
He's like, "Oh yeah, I had to learn that. Like, I can build us a fire if we need to. Make
yeah,
sure you know how to do that. Can you rub the sticks together? Can
yeah.
you make? Do you know how to build a fire? Because if you're stuck outside, you're gonna need not fire just for warmth. You're gonna need it for sight too. There's a
Yeah.
lot of to cook. You're gonna need to cook. So I would totally make it fun too. I would make it fun. Like I think it's kind of fun to go on these adventures and
It's
like
really good fun. There's so many different things. Do you think people are unaware? doing the dark side's work for them by
Oh yeah.
getting so helpless, by sitting there consuming. And we've spoken so much about being physically fit, about not over consuming too much, about all the things we've spoken about today. I think that's a huge area. I think
Oh,
it's been
absolutely.
expertly done to mind control people to do that.
I see that in my generation too. Like as an elder millennial, I was laughing the other day. I was like, I had to call my mom, this is a while ago, because I didn't know how to boil an egg.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we didn't learn in school growing up. I was taking calculus. My
Mm,
school didn't offer things like home ec or shop.
mm,
And yes, my parents probably should have taught us that too, but they were so focused on us going to university, getting our grades right, like that we weren't taught some of the
mm,
essential things. Like there's value to home ec, there's
mm.
value to shop class, there's value, and we're seeing that now too. Like so many people, like my generation specifically, the millennials, were overeducated and underpaid,
Yeah.
right? Where there's so many people now, they're like, let's go back to learning how to be a plumber. And so I think they did that intentionally. I think
Yeah.
that, for so many, that was, and listen, it's two things can be true, right? Like growing up, I was always told to be proud because both of my grandmothers went to university. And I didn't understand that for a long time because in my house, university wasn't an option.
Mm,
My mom, everyone, but I didn't get at that point that that wasn't common for women, that they both went
mm.
to university. But those were different times. And both of my grandmothers could cook. Both
Yeah.
of my grandmothers knew how to garden. I remember going with my mom's mom outside to pick tea leaves for our
Hmm.
sweet tea that she made from scratch. They all made from scratch. So they had kind of the best of both. And then as time went by through my generation, we were so focused on, universities became so competitive. They made it very competitive to get in, to make sure we're getting the calculus in, we're getting all the foreign languages in, to be accepted, all your after school activities, all your sports, your volunteer, to get accepted to the right university, that some of the survival stuff that's supposed to be taught to you at a very young age was neglected. But in the 90s, people were like, well, you don't need to know that anyway. You can just order it. You can just do this. You can just do
Yeah.
that. And so I'm so grateful that my partner is very well versed in like survival. I mean, I always say he's the original conspiracy theorist. I mean, we have beans and rice and storage that he's had for years because
Mm.
they won't go back, even before 2020 happened, just in case. And so I think that if you feel kind of panicked because maybe you're in my situation, find someone that you can trust that knows a thing or two. A sense of direction, Catherine. Like I have a really great, that's one of my hidden talents. I'm really
Yeah.
good at directions. I can, and Todd's not so great at directions. And we've talked, I
I'm not so
feel
good.
it.
That is not my talent.
I can feel it in my body. Like my
Mm.
parents used to laugh, like they didn't worry about me because I'd always find my way back home. I'm like, oh, that's a good story. The 7 dogs that got kidnapped. Have you heard this story?
I
It's all
have
over.
heard, I've seen some of it. Yeah, I have
And
seen
they
some of
they
it.
got they 7 dogs. They broke away and all ran back to their
Mm.
home. Or I could do that. I
Yeah.
would I would be able. I could feel it. If you tell me north, I'll feel it in my body where to go. And I've always been that way. And so that is an important survival
Mm.
skill I have. If we're in the woods, I would be able to probably manage us pretty well.
Mm.
Whereas Todd can light the fire. So just because you
Mm.
might not know how to light a fire, you might have a skill like direction. So find that community that just in case you can support each other and protect each other and work together to get out of the situation that you're in. And do not, for the love of God, if you are living in a smart city, move.
Yeah, move,
Get
get
out.
out when you can, whilst you can,
Yes.
because they're going to be making it very, very difficult for you to get out. And that's one of the things I love about how we live is, yes, I have got a washing machine, I have
Yeah.
got a dishwasher, although we very rarely use it. But equally, we don't have any food delivery. We can get supermarket deliveries, but we never do that. But we don't have any fast food delivery or so it's very easy. It's so much easier if you set your lifestyle up to remove those temptations from yourself.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're relying on willpower and everything. So it is really, really important. I mean, I'm really good at foraging. I know
Yeah.
can eat and what. In the UK, I wouldn't, if you put me in a different country, which I wasn't familiar, then obviously I would be pretty stumped. But again, I've got a really good sense of smell and a very good indication for plant-wise, and herbal medicine is my real sort of power. But do not follow me for directions because
That's me.
that,
That's where I
honestly, I am hopeless, a standing joke in my family. Like, no, that is not my superpower at all.
That's mine. That's that. Well, that's the thing about hair. Like we look at our hair on our
Mm,
arms, and that's part of your nervous system, right?
yeah,
So when your hair stands on end, like when Robbie's hair bristles, pay attention to that. That's one of your senses.
yeah,
Hair on your head, that's an important, to kind of like the whiskers of a dog or a cat to kind
yeah.
of feel the environment. And so, yeah, absolutely. I would say too, again, I think we've talked about this before, especially like here in the Southeast, we have pointer trees
Yeah,
which are trees that the Native Americans like molded to point towards water. So if you know that and you see them everywhere,
yeah.
you can see the pointer tree and you know where to get water, where there is water. And so absolutely poison plants,
Mhm.
non-poisonous plants, all that kind of stuff. And so and I know Bubby, yes, he's now standing up looking at me, I think because he hears me talk about the outside. Hi,
Exactly,
hi baby, you want to
exactly.
say hello to
I did
Catherine?
want to say about the Wi-Fi as well, because this links back to the electric cars. So read my article. I won't go into it too much detail here. Electric cars are absolutely horrendous for high levels of man-made Wi-Fi, and most people here are very well versed in 5G and 6G and how damaging it is at a cellular level. But it's also messing up a lot of navigation systems. So this
Yeah.
artificial sort of ether grid Wi-Fi network that they're putting everywhere not only affects us, but it affects our animals and will make you make bad decisions. So
With
again, get
the
used to,
Havana syndrome.
yeah,
Perfect
completely.
example.
Havana
Yeah.
syndrome, which I've done a whole show on, and particularly now we've all got these silicon implants in us, whether we like it or not, and whether we've been vaxxed or not, we have. So I think being aware of these things and getting used to learning to read a map again is really, really
Yeah.
important. Don't just rely on your sat nav all the time.
Yeah, make sure map reading, that's really
Yeah,
important. Absolutely. We had to do that in the dark ages, the days of Yorn. Absolutely. It's pretty I think there's very simple things you can do. Just look at the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, what they teach them and teach yourself that.
it's so
Um,
simple. Yeah.
so simple. And please, even if you're living in a smart city because you have to be in a city, just go to another apartment complex. Go somewhere that is not can't lock you in.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
So,
yeah, electronic door controls and gates and things like that. I mean, you're stuffed. You're really, really
yeah.
stuffed.
Yeah.
So sort of rounding it off, I would ask people to, if you've got an electric car, if family members have got an electric car, please share the article below that I'm going to share, because the thing we can do straight away is understand all of this is understanding the risks and understanding when you've got to make slightly different decisions. So if you're an electric car, you're going to be far more affected by the Wi-Fi and the electromagnetic forces, which will affect your reaction time, your health, etc. But equally, you've got to be aware that children and animals will
Yeah.
not hear you. You've also got to be very well aware of if the global situation or your situation wherever you are in the world is looking a little bit dodgy. Are you making yourself very, very susceptible even more? I mean, there's lots of the control grid that's going to be very difficult for all of us to avoid.
Yeah.
Digital ID being one of them because it's everywhere and on everything now. And try going into a big supermarket without cameras tracking you everywhere. But just it's not again about being fearful about this. It's about minimizing how many of these what am I sitting there and really understanding the risks of this? And am I thinking about other beings than myself? Because this selfishness and entitlement and just thinking what's good for me it will come round to hit you sooner or later.
I was about to say trust your dogs too. Like in your
Mm,
and if you're out in nature, when Robbie bristles in nature, we
yeah,
pay attention because they remember they're hearing. Like especially for dogs, they hear. He's trying to get it. It's because Daddy's making lunch, isn't it?
yeah.
They make us. Speaking of senses, they can hear things we cannot hear,
And
and I do.
smell, their sense of smell is a million times more powerful than us.
And we have to worry about like wild hogs here,
Yeah.
and they're very dangerous. And so you usually don't see wild hogs. They pretty much stay clear. But when Ravi gets bristled in an area, that's the
Mm.
first thing we think about is there a wild pack of wild hogs near us?
Yeah.
So I would say pay attention to your animals too. Like when you're out with them, when they bristle, pay attention. Point your dogs that point, look at where they're pointing, like, so
Yeah.
anyway, hold on,
And I
buddy.
think,
Hold on.
back about, self-responsibility and things, if we tuned in with these other senses more, not only are we helping all the animals and all the people around us, but also we wouldn't be so consumed then with this question of who can I trust, what
Right.
information can I trust? Your body would tell you, and that makes life a lot simpler, and it stops you being pulled down. All of us, I mean, we've all been distracted, we've all been fooled, we will be again. But the more we tune in with this information, the more we're going to be really clear about when we're being told something. Is it true? Is it not? Can you trust the person? Are you going to take their advice, or are you going to actually do the opposite?
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, well, thanks for being with us today. Let us know what your superpower is. I want to know everyone's superpower, because honestly, you will find a lot below. Every single one of us has got something that we take for granted that we're good at, and other
Yeah.
people are like, wow, I need you in my tribe, that's for
And
sure.
own it. Own it. I'm good at directions. Own it and keep
Mm.
working on that, because you never know when that's going to come in handy. And be prepared. I think you're right, Catherine. Learn how to read mats again, because if shit hits the fan, you're going to need to ditch these.
Absolutely. I mean, it's already happening in so many places across the globe. It's more a case of when, not if. And if you're completely reliant on that to connect in with other people, Lola, that's all right. Oh, Indy this time. Then, sorry, she's just having good old scrap. You've got to take your power back, and don't spend all your time consuming information. Make sure you're getting as self-sufficient as possible, connecting in with your community, seeing there will be people in your community you can trust, spend your time making those relationships. And
Absolutely.
don't wait for a tragedy to happen. Just take a really good look at your life and say, right, what needs to change?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Thanks so much,
So,
everyone. Now, next week we will be on Brice's channel, Esoteric Atlanta Live. So come join us then. All of Brice's links will be below. And please do share the electric car Substack or blog below. It will mean a lot to me, and it will really mean a lot to Idris. Thank you so
yes.
much. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Hi, everyone. It's Catherine here. And before I dive into today's episode, I want to really quickly share something that's so important to me. I love hosting this podcast because it allows us all to explore those big questions, challenge our programming, and uncover the natural truths that truly empower us. But did you know my real passion's working one-on-one with animals and people, helping you or your animal cut through the noise, find the root cause of imbalances, stress, illnesses, or really just create a personalized plan that actually works for you? So whether you're here for your own healing, or you're a dedicated animal guardian wanting the very best for your dog, cat, horse, any four-legged or scaled or winged companion, I'm here for you both. I work with animals and humans, but I especially love helping the animals thrive. That is my real happy place. So my recharge and reset consultations and online courses are packed with practical tools, printable resources, lifelong access. And the main thing is you'll never feel alone on this journey. And they work. Just head over to my website and check out the testimonials. So if you're really ready to take action and not just listen, head over to catherineedwards.life, that's Catherine with the C and .life at the end, and explore my courses and consults. Or if you want to, book a free 15-minute chat to see if I can help. Because it's really important we stop outsourcing our health, really look after our animal companions better than before, and start leading by example. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.